I'm an artist first. So when I met hip hop, she was a fellow respected artist, and she later became my lover and friend.
My cousin Lewis was a teenager already, so my first introduction to hip hop is from him. And so remember, hip hop at that point is more funk, pop, kind of hip hop.
There was a couple hip hop clubs, but it wasn't really prominent, so it inspired me to want to create that because I saw a need for it.
I remember going home, playing with kids. That's when kids still played on the block. Getting cardboard from the garbage and putting it out on the sidewalk with all these other kids. I was the youngest, and trying to mimic breakdancing, mimicking what we saw older kids doing. It's Brooklyn, so we're literally on the sidewalk with cardboard and trying to breakdance, but we're kids.
Just part of who we are. I remember when Common used to come and he would freestyle at CVS, and they'd be like, that nigga Rashid, he gonna come through here. And like, Common would come to CVS and freestyle battle with people. That was his initial stomping ground. And what's funny is, like, Lonnie would talk about Twista. Like, Lonnie was IC, if anybody knows Chiraq. That was his hip hop name. And so he'd be like, man, Twista think he cold because he raps so fast. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was a whole thing.
I was 13. It was Lil Wayne. It was probably like right above it by Lil Wayne. I thought he was super clever for corny punchlines about sex and stuff.
Definitely that Ludacris album. I think it was on like MTV or something. The very first track, I remember being like, whoa, did that just happen? It's a woman's voice, and she's going, the royal penis is clean, your highness. And he's like, thank you, king shit. And I was just like, what is that? That was a song, that was the intro. And I was just like, what is going on? I mean, I was like a 12-year-old kid. I was just like, wow, I can't believe my mom's letting me listen to this.
The real disconnect between what hip hop is and what people experience, how hip hop is represented or represented in the media, and then how it's then represented and repackaged, criticized, and uplifted in articles.
It is people's experiences. People who create music, they're creating a mirror of themselves. People want to see themselves in the art that they create.
And it's tied to a long history of the commodification, the desire of blackness, but at the same time, the hatred of blackness, the scapegoating of blackness. When you experience that, when you experience a world that hates you and neglects you, you still want love, right? So you get it from those people that you hang out with.
For us, hip-hop was a lifestyle. It wasn't just a style of beats and music. There was a community, because there was a relationship between my music and my blackness. That was the black experience. Hip-hop was.
I didn't think about the commodification of hip-hop when I was in hip-hop, in, the culture in New York and doing certain things. I didn't think about it, right? When you're but I could tell you what I felt.
When you're rooted.
Most kids, I think, in urban spaces that are black and brown, that come from impoverished families and neighborhoods that don't have parental guidance because their parents are either not there, right? So they're dead, in jail. They just never existed because they never knew who their father was. For us, you go to school and you're either invisible or you're the enemy in terms of content. You were treated poorly, and the poorer and more neglected you are, the worse you were treated in school. bonds were made because we really didn't have anything else. So you find that love and that care outside in the streets. But with hip hop, I remember realizing, and especially when I was a teenager, especially when gangster rap came out, realizing that feeling of not being loved, hearing that, and realizing that we were not alone, that someone else felt unloved too. And that affective investment was what mattered to me and to us when we listened to hip hop.
As humans, we are, by definition, storytellers. That's what we love to do, and music and art is a way to tell those stories.
There's the experience of hip hop, but there's also an experience of community that's embedded within hip hop music and hip hop culture.
The hip hop crew is that they study the philosophies of hip hop. So what they'll do is, like, there's some that tag, so they'll go around and they'll do graffiti and stuff like that. Some that dance and some that rap. I remember our big cousin Lonnie, he passed away, but at his funeral, they were freestyling. Like the guy who gave his eulogy was part of their crew, and so he rhymed during the eulogy. Like, it was the dopest funeral I had ever been to. And then when you go outside, like, the crew was outside freestyling. Like, it was beautiful.
Everybody's doors were open on that floor, and people would come into my godmother's house, not even really like part of the family, just a neighbor, but coming to get food, coming to hang out, bringing stuff over, because that's how normal that was. I knew the people selling drugs, especially then when I was younger. I didn't know what they were selling, couldn't really articulate things in the ways that I was able to articulate them later, but I understood. And these were the same kids that helped us with our groceries. A lot of them lived in the building. A lot of them didn't. So they were neighborhood kids. In terms of street culture, those kids are the kids that love you, and you love them in return. Those are the ones that you share everything with, no matter what. And that's how that bond, that loyalty is produced. That sense of community was there. Even though we were in the projects, there was drug dealers downstairs, there was still something else there. Each time hip hop is layered, we lose those practices, those rituals that made hip hop even come into fruition. Hip hop, at the end of the day, is still revolutionary because it teaches young people who are hated in the United States of America and in the Western world, it teaches them that they are loved. That's what hip hop teaches them, that we love each other, that there are people, young people out there that are experiencing the same pain that they're experiencing. So in the end, hip hop is still revolutionary. It's still about loving Blackness, right? Embracing Blackness.
And so hip hop will forever be revolutionary. And it stands against racism, anti-Blackness, hegemony, injustice, and white supremacy.
Anything goes against middle-class, bourgeois, Western society, that is in itself a revolutionary act. And that's why hip-hop still matters. That's why it's still magical. Because it teaches you to love Blackness, it teaches you to reject the very thing that has victimized you your entire life.
Is that why you fell in love with hip hop?
It sure is.
That is why hip hop is ours.